Because for me it came about when I was doing a havening session with a business client, and we were sort of moving towards outcome havening, and just because of the way the conversation was going, it felt really mBraining. So as I was havening, I started going through the mBraining sequence, foundational sequence, and there seemed to be such a deep level of ahas coming out. And not just for the client I was working with, but I found myself really connected to where they were at as well. So it was almost like my intuition went to a whole new level through the havening process. And I'm not sure if that was what was involved. I just noticed it. So then I thought I'd experiment with somebody else and see what happened. And then I did it with you. And then it's like, so it feels like there's something quite powerful about combining the two.
Yeah, and certainly my experience of being on the receiving end of it took me into my body really quickly. I could let go of process completely. Like I wasn't even aware really of process in any way, shape or form.
Which is actually quite remarkable because you are a master trainer. So to be able to not notice me not following the system properly is actually quite a good sign of how deeply you went into it.
Yeah, and my head just turned off, apart from when we were talking directly to head. So I think there is something in it to combine the two up together, deepens it, strengthens it, makes it easier to access the brains. Now whether that's autonomic state or something else as well, I don't know. So yeah, it was worth exploring, and I've been playing with it in terms of when I'm doing heart level, I will haven at heart level. When I'm at head level, I'll take my hands up to head level and get, and even that makes a difference.
Yes. Well, I suppose it's a bit like when you're putting your hand on your heart or your hand on your gut. It's almost a similar
bringing that attention too. So that's been useful, but this I think is in a different league when you're actually got somebody else havening while you're doing the foundational sequence.
And I don't know the answer to this, but I do wonder if it's to do with the delta waves, that we're helping the brain get into a safe space. So it means our ability to access the true alignment is a lot easier because from within we feel safe. I don't know if that's got anything to do with it. It's sort of crossed my mind that could be part of it.
And do the other brains also have a version of delta waves? So is it not just, I know at havening teaching we talk about the head brain going into delta waves, but I was just reviewing the master coach notes, and absolutely when Grant talks about C-tactile efference there, it's to connect with the ANS. So I've always felt from the havening teaching, this is more than head brain, that this is ANS, and that absolutely is backed up in the master coach materials.
Which would also help explain why when I'm doing the havening and the mBraining, I'm also able to connect to that other level because I'm activating my own ANS brain.
Yeah.
That there's some logic to that, isn't there?
Yeah.
And I suppose also, even though that it's the brain that's going into delta waves, we know that release of the GABA, the chemicals, is also flooding through the body as well, not just in our head. So it is a holistic approach. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
And the oxytocin release, which we talk about in havening, but we also know that comes a lot from the heart. In mBraining. So I think there's lots of potential weaving together of the two modalities. We had the one call where we discussed it and we thought it'd be worth getting together and actually showing people what we meant by combining those two up. Hopefully encouraging people that they might want to go and find out more about havening. This is not going to qualify them as haveners by any stretch. But you know, if people want to know more, we'll happily point them in the right direction so they can go and get trained in havening themselves.
And for me it's also just to help people realise that you can bring in other modalities. Absolutely. And occasionally it's actually quite good to experiment because you don't know what's going to come out of it.
You don't. And the last one we did together, we didn't record, so we thought it was worth for the community just recording a session that is real but also staged. So yes, it's staged that we're recording it, but you know, we'll be really havening and really answering as if from the multiple brains.
We'll see how well we get into our own states
Yeah,
by doing
absolutely.
it. We'll stay out of the process.
So I thought, for the sake of staying, you know, not doing some big personal reveal on a video, that actually using gratitude might be a way to start. So almost using a future-focused, resilience kind of almost affirmational but outcome havening type approach, that we could do that while we're mBraining around the multiple brains and just see what the heck arises.
Yep. And I can't actually remember which way we started it. If we went into balanced breathing, coherent breathing first, or if we started with havening first. I don't think it matters which way you go. No. But do you have a preference? Either.
I think, I think we were doing it together. I think it was both at the same time.
Yeah, I couldn't remember. I was saying, which way around did we do it? So for those who
am I in the right place for you?
Yeah, if you're going to be okay, I'm probably going to come around a little bit closer. And just for those who are watching, you always want to check in to make sure that people are feeling okay about how close we are, and if it's okay for me to touch you from your shoulders down. Yep. And just ready to check in that this is okay, that the pace and the pressure is okay.
Yep.
And remember, let's just grab a pillow so you can pop your hands and just pop them face up so we can do the having that side as well. Just for the sake of COVID, I won't be touching your face just for this time round. But everyone...
I can put my glasses back on then.
Well, are you okay? Because in New Zealand we are COVID.
Yeah. I mean, I'm fine if you're fine, but
okay, we'll do that as well.
I'm easy
then.
either way.
Okay, so if we're going to be talking about gratitude, just before we go there, let's concentrate on our breathing and just get us into that lovely coherent state. And that's simply being aware of where your body is. Noticing yourself sitting on the chair, and your feet on the ground. And bringing some awareness to your natural breath. And take a moment now to deepen that breath. As you breathe in and out naturally, start to think of appreciation. See a really nice even breathing happening there.
There are all sorts going through my heart and mind about appreciation of different things.
Yeah, lovely. Do you want to share some of those things?
Oh, well, some's really simple. My cat.
Lovely.
Snuggling up against my side of it. He always goes on my left cheek and snuggles up. Connection with people that I've had over the last couple of days. So particular people came to mind.
Lovely. So those people and just the love you have for your cat, let's just bring that into the heart space. Really feel it in your heart. And is there a warmth that goes with it, or is there a pressure? How do you know that you've reached that space inside your heart?
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a tiny feel my head going. It's almost like a little gentle swaying movement. It's quite subtle. It's not a massive movement. It's quite deep in my heart. It's like right down the bottom.
So would you say it's a comforting feeling?
Yeah,
or just
soothing, I think would be the word I'd use.
Lovely, soothing feeling. So let that soothing feeling ripple out from your heart and across your chest. And we want to take that lovely soothing feeling and let it feel as if it's flowing all through your body. Down your arms, down your legs, tingling down your back perhaps.
It's really interesting. The first place it went was my right big toe.
Your right big toe? What does the right big toe have to say? It's saying, notice me. So if you take that feeling of appreciation and gratitude down to that toe, and it wants to talk to you and say something, that part of you that actually is really fully coherent, everything is interconnected, including that big toe. What would it like to share about gratitude and appreciation?
It's almost like saying kick into touch. So like whatever is not helpful, not part of this, just kick it away.
Kick it away. Beautiful. Beautiful. And if we take that kicking it away, if it's not useful, and bring it back up into the heart space, what would the heart say about that messaging?
It's not a clear, certainly no clear words as such. But maybe there was. Values was the words. An appreciation that, you know, there's one of me, there's 24 hours in a day, there's however many years I've got left to work. And yeah, don't waste time on the stuff that isn't in line with that.
Beautiful. So not wasting time on stuff that's not in alignment with those values, those things you hold to be true and dear. Beautiful. So bring that back down to your big toe. That feeling of kicking to touch, but also really making sure that you're making the most of the time that you're here.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's almost like, so that's gone, like in terms of the kicking into touch is kicked into touch.
Beautiful.
And it's like the 2 feet are kind of dancing and...
Dance time. Dance time.
Well, movement, like not, you know, dance for the sake of dancing, but definitely that movement.
So that feeling of movement, just again, keeping that breathing beautifully coherent, evenly paced, and connecting with that AMS system, that part of you that integrates everything. Where might that dancing be useful, that movement be useful? What might the messaging be behind that for you?
I've gone to gut and about being true to myself.
Nice. So let's just stay with the gut. Let it just digest what it's hearing at the moment. Probably needs a little bit of time to think. Doesn't want to be rushed too much. But as you tap into that gut intelligence, what might be popping up?
It's a sense of that true to self. Being okay with that, being okay with who I am, being grateful for who I am.
Gratitude for who you are, and appreciation.
And even though that involves being grateful for stuff other people don't like, that's kind of okay.
That's your core sense of self speaking to you. It's okay to be you. Well, thank the gut for that. Yeah, that's quite nice. And let's bring that back up into the heart, that appreciation for being who you are. Doesn't matter what anyone else thinks or says or does. This is you, being true to you. As we let that messaging come back up into that heart space, the part of you that really wants to protect those values, wants to honour you from a deep, deep loving perspective. How does that sit?
Very well. It's like there's a coming together of the identity and the values. They're so closely correlated with each other. And sometimes, you know, you might be asked to maybe put someone else's values above yours. And the gut's going, no, don't do it. Don't do it.
Powerful.
Don't do it.
And what does the heart say to that?
Well, the heart's just very settled, quite still.
Nice. Well, we know there's a part of you that likes to take over sometimes in that little head brain.
It's been very quiet, though.
But it has been. I'm
in its
very
defense.
impressed. Yes, I'm very impressed. So let's bring that messaging up, because that's partly where we come unstuck when we try and use logic. But we want to take up that messaging of being true to you, to living life with your values, the things that are important to you. And let's bring that up into that beautifully creative headspace, that part of you that's always got new ideas. And it's hearing or being reminded of how important it is for your gut and your heart to live your values, be true to you. What's the head hearing?
Actually, the head immediately goes, good, because now I can have my standards, I can keep up to date, I can keep learning. That's all the stuff the head does really well. And it's almost like an acknowledgement of, yeah, I've been a bit cruel to my head in the past, going it dominates and it's problematic, and it's an acceptance that it's not at all that. It's part of accepting that head as well, in terms of that they are my superpowers.
So it sounds like there's a beautiful alignment, head, heart, gut, ANS. And what about that, going down to that pelvic brain? I know we're skipping a little bit here, but just everything's at such beautiful alignment. Is there any urge there that needs to be voiced, or any part that's deeply embedded in you that hasn't yet had a voice?
Yeah, being aware that pelvis is that co-creation. It's definitely about finding the right people to do that with, who align with my values, who support my values, who support my identity. So the pelvis is going, yeah, just... Co-creativity doesn't mean you have to do it with everybody, which is interesting.
Nice, a real nice insight.
So it is definitely co-creativity. It's not me going out on some separation, kind of thought. But it wants to do that with people who are like-minded, who have the same values.
Beautiful, beautiful. And just looking at your face, there's a real softness there, a smoothness, as if it recognises that you are in alignment. So if we take that lovely feeling of being true to you and living your values, co-creating with the people who are like-minded, who share what's important to you on that really, really deep level, and we let that feeling cross your entire body, your ANS is guiding every cell in your body to be in alignment. And we bring that back to the heart. And we feel that connection.
Yeah, it's beautifully connected up and down my body. I think I need to also connect it out to my spiritual connection.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And just make sure that that's also aligned.
So with that, allow that knowing, that inner wisdom that you have, to move out. Where would it leave from? Where would it connect? How would you connect to that spirit level?
Yeah, the sense that it's to my right, heart level, but to my right. Don't know why.
Because there's an innate wisdom there. So on that right hand side at your heart level, just imagine a beautiful connecting light that's opening up into that spirit level that's so deeply important to you. And it's willing to share its wisdom, and you're willing to listen and to share back.
Yeah, I got a message a long while ago in terms of keep on going, keep on going, keep on the road, and I wasn't quite sure what it meant. And it's like, see, I've told you all along. Yeah, so affirming in terms of, coming on board with that sense of who I am, and me being enough and being in the right place, and Yeah, but I think it's about me remembering to check in with that at no point I go off down some ego tangent, or so I feel like I want to bring that in front of me.
The reminder to keep on checking in? Or
yeah, that connection. If I bring it in front and go, actually, that needs to be like never forgotten. So it's my focus rather than an add-on.
So would it be helpful if we tapped into the creative brain and check in, what would be a really nice way to keep it at the front of you? What would be a way that's in true alignment with all that you are and connects to the spirit to help you stay on your path?
Well, a beautiful image of the cross.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of sitting at the foot of the cross, checking in.
So describe the cross to me. Size,
Yeah, it's much bigger than I don't know that I've ever really thought like that, but it is huge.
Mm-hmm.
It's wooden. It's probably not what it was actually like in real life, but it's kind of wooden planks rather than raw tree. And I'm not getting a lot around it at all. Everything else is kind of hazy, and so there's just this beautiful focus of the cross, which is empty, interestingly. And yet I still feel that sitting there, it's almost like I imagine someone goes to a grave to have a conversation. That in some way that helps me connect to my God, my kind of spiritual practice, even though he's not there as such.
So what would be a really resourceful way for you to have that connection come to you every time you need it, or your spirit knows that you need it?
My attention went to the fact that I've got a cross around my neck, which is in front of me, interestingly. So whether it's just touching onto that, so it's just remembering to do that if I'm making kind of any big decisions. Checking in with that. And if I think foundational sequence, we start at heart, we access through heart, and then immediately going to check with that before moving on.
Beautiful. And is there anything that the other intelligences might like to add? Head, gut, pelvic, ANS?
Yeah, ANS is kind of saying that's all very lovely. But check out with me as well, because I've got information to what else is going on around.
Thank you.
So it certainly doesn't want to be left out. Doesn't want this to become a little, only heart, only spirit.
Well, as we well know, the ANS is so clever at integrating. So how might the ANS integrate its wisdom with spirit?
So it says, once we've had that conversation between heart and spirit wisdom, that it will take that message around the body.
Watch out, world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Beautiful. So it will take the message out there for you.
So it will also, the minute I go up into foundational sequence in head, by default it goes through the ANS to do that. So that's okay, because it will. I'm just making that over, I think. It was already there.
It's already there. But it's also ANS being listened to. It's being listened to. So
yeah, and giving it permission, like giving that message to it to take up to the head to then do the next check-in.
So if we weave all of that together, heart, spirit, ANS, head, gut, pelvic, all those amazing intelligences that work together so beautifully, especially when they're in alignment. And we think about appreciation, we think about gratitude, and we think about the next 12 months. What's possible? What's possible for Suzanne in the next 12 months from that space?
It feels like I'm coming from a different centre in that place. It's definitely a drop out of head. So what's possible is that I come from that place, and if I'm going to shift that, then that kind of changes everything. So it feels calmer, feels more grounded, feels stronger.
And would that, if you had to have an image for that, would that be the cross, or would there be another image that helps you feel that strength, that groundedness, that other place?
I think it's me. I think it's a picture of me with roots going into the ground, me standing up tall, smiling, observing more than reacting.
So let's take that image. Just imagine yourself deeply, deeply connected to Mother Earth, your feet firmly on the ground, and the energy connecting all the way down. And knowing that on that right side, you're also connected to Spirit, and that you're standing tall and you can feel the energy from above as well, all the way through, all the way through. And there's a little cheeky smile as well. And it just feels right. You feel that gratitude in your heart. You feel that appreciation for all that's possible. And you feel that this is my time. I can do whatever I want. And from that place of total connection with all that you are, all that's out there, and that cheeky little smile, from that place, a thought pops up about what the next step is for you to take you on your journey. And it's so obvious. It just feels right. What would that next step look like, feel like, be like?
It's almost counterintuitive. It's actually not taking a step. It's just being.
Beautiful.
So there's no urgency, there's no need to react. Trust comes to mind. Trust that, the path the path is there. The path's already there. But I don't need to run down it.
Just be.
Just be. And even if it's just the babiest of steps of just stepping onto that path and then doing that present moment check-in and
So let's take that awareness of just being. There's no rush. The path is there. The guidance is without and within. And breathe in 2 or 3 times that deep sense of knowing that you just need to be you.
There's a beautiful sense of not being on my own. I can't quite work out who all the people are, but there are people around me. And we're all kind of, I'm not even at the front of the crowd, so there's people ahead of me, beside me, but we're all facing the same direction. There's a kind of jovial spirit there, not a messing around, but a lightness and a contentedness, maybe.
So that's you connecting to a greater system, a greater world, and interconnected with lots of people, a systemic approach, and that collaborative, co-creative wisdom of the whole, how powerful it will be.
Yeah, and I know that it won't be the whole. I know that there are some people who won't be part of that, and that's okay.
Their journey is their journey.
Their journey is their journey, absolutely.
It's about you being with people whose values are aligned with you. Take a moment just to appreciate all that those intelligences have shared with you today. And really let it go throughout your whole body. Let the ANS do what it's so good at. Finding every nook and cranny. But knowing also that you're connected to spirit. And so that ANS energy actually can move out beyond you. Like a bubble around you. That connects with other bubbles of like energy. And you become a force. A powerful force to bring about all that you want, all the good that you see is possible. How grateful and appreciative you feel knowing that it's coming from within to go without, and from without to come within. Take one last beautiful deep breath from head all the way through to toe. Just open your eyes when you're ready.
Yeah, I don't want to come back. Thank you very much. Quite happily sat there for the day.
Well, hold on to that feeling.
Thank you.
Well done, you. That was really beautiful.
Yeah. Lovely.
It was interesting how, and I always think of Grant saying that mBraining and going up the hierarchy and the wisdoming at the end, it then goes out beyond to the system, to the other, and then to the whole system side of it. And it was almost like that's where you ended up.
Yeah, there was a real sense that I was just a small dot in this much bigger picture. It wasn't about me at all. I was there, but it wasn't, it was that collective that was the power.
And what, for me, it was like there was real alignment. It was strange because often if I'm mBraining, sometimes I think people are just saying that they're in alignment because that's not matching up with their body language. But for you, almost really, really quickly, there was an alignment there.
There was. The only one that came out was the ANS when it kind of said, hang on a minute.
What about me? Yeah.
Oh God, I want to be part of this. And not that I want to be part of it egotistical. I've got something to contribute to because I can check out the environment and feed that in. So that was the only point at which I thought there was a slightly
out of alignment
disagreement.
But it's almost so it's disagreement, and it was like I'm still here, as opposed to me having to use my head brain to bring you back in. So it was really, it just seemed to flow from you. Yeah, it helps that you know exactly what I'm talking about because I don't use the best language sometimes for mBraining. But anyway,
I would disagree, but there you go. Again, experience. I went deep really quick. So there's definitely something in this in terms of the havening. I'm going to say it's acting on autonomic state. That's what it feels like.
And I agree, because when you went there, because we'd said gratitude and appreciation, and then all of a sudden we went to that next level. It's like, oh, okay, well we can go there too. So
that's so much for keeping it nice and superficial and light. Yeah. But it just went naturally. And my head, until you then said, hey, we haven't been to head for a while, kind of not even aware of it.
Which is slightly unusual, isn't it?
Which is not my default place.
And the whole way through there was a real softness about your face as well, like it was as if the head was relaxed, that you're coming from a different place as you were speaking.
And the head came in, right? Because the head
ignored.
said, hang on a minute, I'm doing the research, I'm doing the learning, the growing, I'm part of this. So take me into almost right down to gut level identity. It's like, yeah, the values are important, but this is who I am. And instead of going, that's a problem, go, actually, that's your superpower.
Right, yeah, exactly. And I noticed when I was havening that I started to slow down as well. Like my normal rhythm, if I was just purely havening, would probably be a little bit faster. But it was, and I noticed it and thought, but it doesn't feel right to go fast. So it was almost like I was in sync with perhaps the energy that I don't know. I know that for me, I was doing it more slowly than I normally would. So for an observation.
I wasn't aware of it slowing in the process. I wasn't. In fact, I'm almost not even aware of the physical touch at a physical level.
So you're so embodied and experience. Interesting. Yeah. I just encourage people to give it a go, because
have a play,
exactly, experiment and
beautiful.
I'm excited. Thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to practice and to play.
Yeah, definitely encouraged to go and play with this and the different, because I use it quite a lot, getting them to do their own. But I think there's something much deeper about havening somebody else.
And I do just anyway, that you can do it via Zoom, but I think that when people can concentrate on what's here and here and here, rather than having to do this themselves, it's so much more powerful. It's like one less thing for the head brain to be thinking about.
And I wonder if it's even deeper than that, in terms of, we know we're wired to connect. We know the power of touch. That if there's something almost unique to the physical touch, even beyond not having to concentrate on it, that there is something in that touch. So let me pass that back then. While you're havening, what's your focus? What's your kind of your impression of what you're doing in the touch?
So, very much in the moment. So I'm not sure there's a lot of conscious thought going on there. But I know that before I started, in my own mind, it was a little intention to hold the space, and coming in with gratitude to start off with, even though we were talking about gratitude, I didn't know that beforehand.
Yeah.
But for me, it's always about, when I'm with somebody, it's asking myself, what do I really love and appreciate about that person before I even get there?
Yeah, and it was interesting you used the word appreciation. That almost threw me. I'm like, oh, hang on a minute, appreciation.
It's really gratitude, aren't we?
No, that's fine. And it was funny what came up. The most random stuff came up, like the cat this morning snuggling in on my chair, and it was like, yeah.
So I personally think, from a coaching point of view, it's really important that the coach comes in already with an intention of openness, appreciation, but also it's creating that safety as well, so that whether you notice it or not, my intention is to create a safe space and a place to hold whatever comes up. Yeah, I think that then allows me to be much more aware on an intuitive level. Yeah,
and you do that so exquisitely well. So for people who are maybe new to coaching, how do you create that safe space so quickly? So as you said, we were doing a 2 out of 10, and suddenly I'm down at a deep identity level.
If I could answer that question, I might be able to crack my own course. Well, I think it's
interesting. You said you think, but your hands went to heart.
Yeah. Well, nice observation. It's for me. It's a gift that I'm given to be with another person. So I want to make sure that I'm receiving the gift that I'm being given, which is your trust, your openness. I think that's a really courageous thing for another human being to give to another person. So I think that's sort of the foundation of how I come into anything. And I think if intention is there and people pick up on that, then it sort of starts to spiral up. That your first interaction is, oh, okay, she cares, she's holding that space. I'll go a little bit further with her. I'll see if I can just go a little bit deeper. And if I keep holding that space for you and you keep feeling safe, then you're the one who's actually creating the safety by letting yourself go. Because I'm at the same time I'm holding it for you so it feels safe. If I were to do something that had you feel, you'd shut down.
Yeah,
so
but I'm not sure that I consciously thought about it. It was almost like you created the space, so I just jumped off the cliff into it.
But there would have been a part of you that would have known, not going there.
Yeah, if it hadn't been in place. Absolutely right.
I think it's definitely two-way. You've got to be able to connect in with my message of safety and holding and care. And if you don't, then I think you'd put up a barrier. And not you specifically, but people.
So I'm curious about that, I think, statement at the front. And I'm thinking, what does heart do? So heart connection, heart values, heart emoting. What emotions are you holding as you create that safe space?
Oh, gosh, you asked some good questions. I feel like I'm trying to go in with a blank page, so that I'm not bringing too much in, because it's your session, not my session. And sometimes I not so much nowadays, but early on I used to worry that I might be projecting because I felt so in sync with what another person was saying. But now I feel it's more that I'm connecting, and I do believe in the whole energy that comes out from the heart. Yeah. And I think that's another reason why the touch is so powerful, because we're connecting at two levels. One is that heart to heart, and the other is in that physical space. And I think there's a huge amount of communication that's taking place at that level that we're not consciously aware of.
Yeah. So what do you do to connect? Do you go through any rituals, any thoughts, to get that connection? So we sit opposite each other. How do you get that connection so fast? I know we know each other, so but I'm guessing you do this with all clients.
Well, the first time we met, we didn't know each other really.
We didn't, and it still happened. So what's the connection if you were to unpack it and bring it out of unconscious excellencing?
I think people know that I care.
Okay, so care is your core.
I care about people.
Yeah.
I want the best for people.
So that makes sense, that the heart was the one to answer. That's how you do it. You come from such a place of care, safety. Beautiful.
No, I've not really thought about it at that level before, so thank you for unpacking that for me. Yeah.
Because, for some people when they're first starting out coaching, they might be a little bit nervous. They might not be confident about what they're going to do. So they sit with someone and they might not even know how to make that connection. So just by giving them a few hints of, here's a master at it, let's model in a way. What are your values? What's your behaviours? What's your beliefs? Any beliefs that underpin it?
Again, it's that I believe that we're all capable of our best version of ourselves being alive more often. And a lot of the stuckness that we have is really just a lack of the core human coming out. And so it's almost like in my own mind is if I can hold that space and allow people to peel away their own layers, they'll emerge themselves. I suppose it's the other thing that I bring in, that I actually don't believe that people are broken in that sense, that sometimes it's just we need to be shown a door to go through, or have a light shining on a path, and with a little bit of guidance, asking some open questions, havening, mBraining, that wisdom that's already there can come out. And normally it's just blocked somewhere, and it's being willing to experiment enough to find out how to unblock it for people.
Yeah. Do you know what's going through my mind as you're talking, sorry to interrupt, is almost I'm getting this sense of you see them, you hear them, you feel them, you touch them. So you've deeply connected and kind of just invited them to be. And if they're ready, they'll respond.
And in a general sense, I think people are desperate for that level of connection.
Yeah, they are. I agree.
And when somebody shows up who can be that person, it's almost like oh, thank goodness for that.
Yeah.
And that their inner self is ready and waiting. In fact, they've been waiting for ages to be able to have somebody just be there for them.
Which will explain why it goes so deeply to identity level. Because that identity comes out and goes, yes, I'm here.
Yeah, at last, you're asking me.
Beautiful.
Thank you. I might have to get that recording myself.
So yeah, bearing in mind, I'd forgotten we were recording. Seeing all the cat hairs on here, just so he's got a present too as well. Anything else you want to say, point out that you noticed around that beautiful weaving, mBraining, havening? Any advice you'd give to somebody else wanting to play with it?
My advice is simply play with it, because I couldn't recreate what we just did. I'm not entirely sure what I did, and I'll look at the recording and say, oh, well, that was interesting, and I'm sure I'll listen to the recording and I'll think, oh, that wasn't the best phrase there, and what about that? But again, I just trust what's coming out, and I trust the person that I work with, that they're going to know where to go with it. So as much as a beginner coach likes to have a framework, try and know the framework enough to be able to be fluid with what you do.
Yeah, nice. So we've got the framework of mBit as in the roadmap and the foundational sequence. So we kind of know where we're going and the little journey in the way. And havening, well, we know that the touch is changing the delta waves, it's changing the whole way the synapses respond and connect, neuron to neuron.
And probably one last thing I'll add to that is I think that I connect more deeply when I'm doing havening with mBraining.
Beautiful.
So I think they're both powerful individually, but I'm beginning to really notice the power of combining the two.
Lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, thank
Hopefully
you.
it's been useful for people as well. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So comment back. Let us know what you thought, questions you've got, what you noticed that we haven't talked about. Yeah, let's start a conversation.
Absolutely. And even what we could have done to enhance it. What are we not seeing that would help us be even better practitioners?
Absolutely. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.